Hey Jeremy, can you hear us?
Yep, I can.
All right, perfect. Is it Jay though? Really? Or
You can, it's Jeremy, it's Watkins, which everyone calls me at work, and all my
okay,
friends call me Jay.
okay, perfect.
So call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late for dinner.
Gotcha. Well, we don't have anybody else in the room other than Adam, who's our engineer for the building envelope items, the rooftop projects.
Okay.
Oh, here's Brian. Alder Holmquist is joining us, so that's two. Brian, can you hear us all right?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me fine?
Yep, we can hear you.
Perfect.
All right, looks like we got three. We have four that said that they'll make it. On the thing, Lynn never got back to me. And I have not heard from Nick Schwartz, but it said, oh, there he is.
There he is.
Hey, Brad.
Hey. So hopefully Lynn or Joel or Dan Eckloff are able to join us. Who else are we missing? Oh, Brendan, there he is. I'm gonna turn on our screen. There we go. Hey, Brendan. Well, we can sit closer to the screen then, I guess, if everybody's coming in virtually.
Yeah, sometimes that happens. As soon as one person says, "Hey, I can be on a virtual," like everybody's like, "Hey, that's me too."
Yeah, that's fine. All right, so Alder Holmquist, we have a quorum.
Hey, Brad,
Perfect.
I need 60 seconds here. I got someone knocking on my car window to have me move my car where I'm sitting.
Okay.
Just give me a second.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no problem.
Okay. Yep.
All right, so for introductory purposes, for everybody on the call, this is Adam Jesvane. Jesvane? Is that how you say it? Jesvane. With Building Envelope Group. He is assisting us with the design of the library rooftop and garage rooftop and then building envelope improvements projects. So he's been working with us. They also did the building envelope inspections, which you guys have seen the reports from in previous meetings.
Wonderful. Thank you for coming.
Thanks. So I have the role as of right now.
Perfect. And let's give Jeremy just another second to.
I'm back.
Okay,
All right.
perfect. All right, Brad, if you already got that noted, you can write down when you called it to order, or when you noted it. We just need a motion for the approval of the minutes from the August 14th, 23 meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Perfect, thanks, Nick. And then we need a second.
I second.
All right, perfect. And then is there any additions, deletions, or corrections that anybody noted?
Nope.
All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, minutes have been approved. Brad, is there anybody in the room that's for appearances?
Not tonight.
All right, and do you see anybody online?
No, we do not have anybody waiting in the waiting room or otherwise.
Perfect. Current section can be closed, then we can go on to 5A, which is unfinished business. This is regarding the 2024 library rooftop and building envelope improvements, 75% design. And Brad, if you want to just kick us off.
So we'll start with the estimated costs. Can you guys see the screen that I'm sharing? Just make sure.
Yes.
Okay, all right. The Public Works Garage is listed first. Not a cheap project, but it's a fairly large facility if you guys are familiar with that garage. And there's a fairly good amount of damage to things like siding, gutters, etc., especially the insulation. Adam, do you anticipate us having to remove a fairly significant portion of the insulation on this project?
So what we figured in with this cost is just kind of spot replacement of the
Okay.
insulation on the other side of the current roof deck. And that was, unless something has changed, because it's been a while since I've been there that you know of, that a lot more has been compromised, then that was our intention moving forward, is to continue with that spot replacement. And
Okay.
I mean, it's basically going off of my visual assessments when you and I walked around there. Probably a year and a half.
Two ago, yeah, almost two,
Yeah.
yeah. So I haven't seen any other damage per se.
Okay.
Most of the damage for everybody on the call is directly related to what they call grommets on the rooftop, or bolts or screws, or
Yeah, they're exposed fasteners holding those panels
Yeah.
down, and you know, the neoprene washers, those are usually the first things to go with UV damage and just heating and cooling.
Yeah.
And that stuff, so.
yeah, so basically almost all of the bolts that are in the top hole, or the fasteners in the rooftop are leaking in the Public Works Garage for the most part, and that's, at that point, water gets in, it drips down, it gets on some of the metal framing, and then it runs its course to the, lowest points. So a lot of the water damage that we're seeing are at the roof lines where the walls meet the roof. So a lot of that'll have to get cut out and replaced. Some of the insulation in the walls probably also needs to get replaced in certain locations. So we'll be doing that with this project. So you can see that in the line items here on the third one. But yeah, any questions on the cost estimation here? Pretty typical contingency, 15%.
I guess my question would be, what did you figure for a percentage of insulation replacement? I mean, you're calling for spot replacement, but is there anything implied or written?
So that actual quantity is not in the documents yet, but will be. And going off of, again, visual observations, I would say it was roughly 10 to 15%, somewhere in that neighborhood, of the total amount, whether it was on the underside of the roof or wall insulation.
Okay.
That's a good point though, Brendan. We should probably list the estimation of the amount in the project manual.
Yeah, I think it just covers both sides.
Yep.
And Brad, where are we at with this estimated cost with what we had set aside?
Well, we had in the original 5-year capital, I think like 800,000 for this rooftop. And then with price increases and delays in the project of a year or two, it's gone up, and the amount of damage that we've assessed is increased as well. So the scope increased slightly, and then obviously the price crept with inflation, so.
Okay, thanks.
Is the siding repair tied to the insulation? Is that the reason for the siding replacement in spots?
No, the siding's been hit, damaged by equipment and stockpiles and
Okay,
materials and stuff like that from the exterior.
gotcha.
So over the siding dates back to the eighties, so you know, whatever's happened since then, it's been damaged.
Okay, so that's just spot replacing the siding.
Yep,
I saw there's one one new gutter being installed. Is there the other side doesn't need replaced? I saw it in the elevation view.
The intention is to reuse existing gutters as much as possible, and then install new where there are no gutters currently.
Oh, okay.
yeah, so that would be the east side of the building does not currently have gutters,
Got it.
which leads to some fairly, oh, hey, Lynn. Some fairly significant issues with icing in the wintertime.
Hmm.
And we also store materials on that side, try and push it up, which probably led to some of the dents and stuff like that in siding.
Okay,
But to kind of get it underneath the small overhang, we put equipment over there as well to get it out of the way of the driveway.
okay.
So it,
I'm not familiar with that side of the building, but
Yeah.
you know, just make sure got positive drainage away and or it's tied to the storm like the other side of the building looks like it is.
yeah, I think we have planned for sets of downspouts on that side,
Yep.
so. And we do have positive drainage away from that side of the building. It's
Okay.
a decent slope. With storm sewer to catch basins and stuff like that.
All right.
So have we decided or anyone decided about ice dams then, since we don't have the positive drainage, since there's no gutters on that side?
Are we doing, did we spec in the heated coils?
Yeah, that was the intention, yes,
Yes.
was to include those in there.
Yeah, so we're putting the heated coils on the edges of the new roof
Okay,
for ice dam issues. And then the intention is to put solar back on with a larger project in the future. Fairly near future, within the next 3 to 5 years. And we have a structural report that shows that we, you know, how much added weight we can put back on the rooftop. The small garage is what we call it, the side garage, which is an addition, is not structurally ready for any added weight, but the main garage is, so that's where the solar is now. So. Any other questions on just the generics of the project, general scope, anything like that?
no, thank you. Sorry, I interjected there.
No, that's fine. Absolutely, that's what we're here for.
Nope, yeah, that's perfect. You want to move on to the library?
Yeah. All right, library estimated cost, 1.2. This particular rooftop is an interesting mix. Obviously, the original facility is from 1970-ish, I think. It's a sloped roof, several angles. It's like 3 hexagons or 4 hexagons all kind of put together. And then it tied into a 2001 edition. That's a flat roof. Is it in tiered membrane?
Oh, it's ballasted.
It's ballasted EPDM. We've been having issues with intermittent leaks. Usually once a year, twice a year, something leaks into the facility, whether from the shingle portion or the flat roof portions. The goal would be a complete replacement of the roofing materials on both sections, including repairs to different areas where we have like a vertical face and the rooftop comes into the vertical face. So there's a skylight, there's all the curbs for the rooftop units for the HVAC. There's where the slope portion comes into the new addition. All those areas need to be addressed as well, and then we're going to be addressing any issues with gutters, downspouts. There are a lot of air gaps in that facility. I can't remember what that stuff is called, but the ceiling tile, tectum. It runs straight out of the inside of the facility to the outside, and that is the soffit material outside of the facility. And so there's obviously a gap at the very top of the walls where the tectum comes through that all needs to be sealed back up all the way around the original part of the building. A lot of the beams that come out are covered in, a veneer, a wood veneer. The stain is in pretty bad shape. It's not sealed well anymore. It's starting to get dilapidated, so the goal would be to address any of those areas that need to be resealed and stained. Tuck pointing, the building is brick. So there's issues here and there with gaps or cracks or otherwise that should be tuck pointed and sealed properly. Sealing around existing conduits and whatnot that come into the building. Just to airtight it a lot better than what it is now and keep pests out and prevent moisture coming into the building and stuff like that, so.
So will it address at all these weird roof lines to help it with drainage or not?
We are doing some,
Okay.
We're addressing two specific spots. They're right over the top of the director's office, where a slope portion comes into a slope portion, and it creates like almost a ridge where the water is hitting and stalling.
Mhm.
And in the wintertime, when we get a freeze thaw, we get it coming in underneath the shingles in those locations, and so we would reframe it so it's just one consistent slope. The rest of it, we're not able to really address with this project. There is an option though, that you were talking to me about for the slope portion of this project. Do you wanna kind of touch on that at all?
Yeah, so in the cost estimate, I included 3 different options for the steep slope. This one that's on the screen now is for asphalt shingles. So that's what's there now is asphalt shingles, and this estimate is to go back with asphalt shingles. I also included cost estimates for a standing seam metal roof to be installed. And then the third option that I included a cost estimate for was a PVC membrane, similar to a low slope roof. Obviously, this would be installed on a steep slope. And with those, they also provide options to heat weld ribs on them to make it look or have the appearance of a standing seam metal roof, but it'd be a single ply membrane. So those are the 3 options that I included cost estimates for. And obviously asphalt shingles is going to be the least expensive. Standing seam metal is going to be the most expensive, and PVC is somewhere in between those 2.
Do you know approximately how much more expensive? Are you talking like 15% more for metal roofing? The reason I ask, and so just so everybody knows, we are still running to try and do this project as a bid A, bid B type of bidding. So we would bid it all out at the same time, and we'd have the option to reject one of the alternates if we needed to, if it comes in way too high. I'm not convinced that, or I don't have a lot of confidence that the mayor will be able to swallow the price tag of the 2 projects together. And she may ask whether we can break this project down into pieces. And if that's the case, then I would prioritize the public works garage, which is in obviously much worse shape than the library. And we would push the library project off to a year where it would fit better into our capital budget. This, putting these two together is almost 2.8 million. We've been told like 3 million is the total for capital projects this year, or next year, I'm sorry. And our public works budget minus the public works garage is somewhere around 6.5, 6.4 with all other projects considered. So the belt's gonna have to be tightened and I'm not really sure what's gonna get chopped and pushed. So just a heads up to the committee. But yeah, did you have the metal versus?
Yeah, so, the stainless steel metal. Generally, what we see in the industry is, standing seam versus asphalt shingles, it runs roughly about 3 times more.
3 times more, so,
Wow,
yeah. But what's the lifespan compared to
Forever.
shingles?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
obviously, it all depends on maintenance.
Yeah.
But I will say that as a caveat that if. These roof systems, regardless of if it's asphalt shingles or stainless steel metal, are well maintained. You're looking at asphalt shingles could go anywhere probably 40, 50 years, whereas stainless steel metal will go 50, 60, 70 years.
Yeah, and so the committee knows this. The asphalt shingles that are up there now are only 22 years old. Or 23 years old, and there's pretty significant dilapidation of what's there.
Yeah,
So
so
it tells you,
what would prevent these from, just being a 20-year deal? I mean, most asphalt shingles, I think, are 20. Life expectancy.
better insulation and ventilation of the existing rooftop on that part of the facility, but we're not. We really don't have the ability to do that because that tectum is, I would assume it's almost adhered to the.
Yeah, so
To
what
the joists or whatever for the roof.
with the investigations that we've done, the tectum roof deck kind of is like a vaulted ceiling inside as you look at it from interior. But then directly on top of that is what they call a nail base, where there's a certain amount of rigid foam insulation, and then a layer of plywood or OSB sheathing, and then the underlayment shingles on top of that. So there is some insulation on top of the tectum now. As part of this project, we propose to add a little bit more. And with that nail base, they do have a vented option as well, where they put like little block spacers before they put the sheathing on. So I mean, we could certainly go that road.
Okay,
And that would help with the ventilation of the whatever roof system is installed.
yeah. So yeah, so there's some options here, we're not all the way done with design, but like I said, I have a feeling that the mayor is going to chop this portion of the project and push it. And maybe as a good faith to the library, if we push this project, then we continue forward with the HVAC project, which we'll talk about on this agenda as well, so. Some give and take maybe, so.
Yeah,
We'll see.
Brad, that's a good point. Like, there's there's the HVAC project that is a whole nother ball of wax, and like we probably won't be able to do everything all at once. So what comes first and figure it out from there.
Yep. And for efficiencies, the reason why we put these projects together is the bidding environment maybe a more,
Mhm.
a little bit better for this large of a project. But they're large projects regardless, so it makes no difference, I don't think.
True, yeah. All right, any other questions that people have regarding either the library or Public Works garage rooftop and building envelopes?
So do you plan to bid both of them together regardless of what Mary says, or?
Well, no, she has control of the budget, so
But I mean, Can you bid them together and then decide that you're just gonna do one or the other? And still
I
get a
mean,
good price?
yeah. I think that the council would probably just set the budget at what we want it to be, and if she says, 1.6 is what you get, then that's what you get. She may even say, for the public works garage, all we're gonna do is the insulation and the roof, and we're not going to do the gutters and the siding, and we'll wait to do that with a different project down the line. Just doing the very super necessary, highest priority things in this project. That's happened with several projects, especially facilities projects, because they're just not eye-catching projects. So when you put them in a budget, people are just like, well, do you really need to do it? That kind of thing. And it's like, well, I mean, we have black mold in the ceiling and the walls in the public works garage. No, it's not in an office environment, but still, it's not something that we probably would wanna keep just kicking the can down the road with, so. We'll see what happens. I mean, our job is to tell city council what we think needs to be done and what the budget is for it and what the scope is, and city council has the tough job of trying to figure out what we can do. And I'm willing to do whatever we can to try and get these done, so.
Yeah, I would only add in that I know we've been hesitant in the past to want to put something out to bid that we weren't somewhat committed to, knowing that firms are going through a lot of hours and costs to be able to respond to those bids, and we don't want to leave a bad taste in people's mouths and not come back for real projects. So that's the balancing act of sometimes we might add something in as an alternate bid. That could be rejected because it's, a smaller little side project. So we'll have to see how things work out in this one for sure.
So the difference in cost, I forgot that they were in here, I'm sorry. No worries. They're in the packet. I know it's a large packet, 128 pages, so. Obviously, I'm always available. If you guys have time to look through any of this and have any more questions. Reach out to me. I can get Adam on an email chain, and we can go through everything with a fine-tooth comb if you want to. Like I said, we're about 90% designed at this point, so we have time. The budget proposals go to the mayor the first week of August. So scope can't necessarily change, but we can definitely put in different items in the spec, language, CYA type of language and assurances and limitations, milestones, things like that. So feel free to reach out to me. I did send the spec manual today. So the spec sheets are in your email inbox. So let me know if you see anything in there that you flag that like, hey, you should probably adjust this, or I'd suggest making some revisions here and there, so.
Brad, that was that separate email with the 3 attachments, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And that's specifically just for the garage roof and the library roof project. That's what we've been discussing here.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. All right. I think we can move on to new business, and why don't you start us off with the community center, senior center renovations?
Yep. So Adam, you're good to go up here. Okay. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. It was great to
appreciate
have
it.
you at the meeting.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you.
and we'll talk.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you too. All right, so this might look familiar. This was on our agenda in August of last year. The way that we structured the bid request last year was to put in like 9 alternates prioritized from A to whatever it was, like H or I. And it was bid out late, and I just have a feeling that contractors looked at it and said, I don't understand. Why would I put the effort forward to do this if the only part of the bid that you're going to accept is like the main
The
bid,
one-
yeah, bid A. So nobody bid on the project. I wasn't surprised with how late it was put out. Now we're looking at it again, and it is very late in the year again. So I don't necessarily have high hopes for this, but the scope is slightly different. The idea here is to improve safety, accessibility, what do you wanna say, functionality for the actual staff. Like our senior center director is in an office that would be about the same size as most people's walk-in closets or smaller. Does not have HVAC controls. I don't even think it really has air conditioning in there. It's just a bad situation. The same goes for most of the rest of the facility, especially in the senior center, which is used on a daily basis. Also, the scope changed because if you may not be aware, the recreational programming for like after-school programs and other things like that, which is the bulk of the use of the upper part of the facility at the community center. They have moved their programs over to Maywood School, just down the street. And so now the community center is, the uses in there are vastly different than what they used to be. And in all honesty, the senior center is going to kind of migrate up and take over use in some of those spaces up in the upper level. And then the office situation in the upper level, which is the main use for the Parks and Rec department, is just not ideal. It's all broken up. The Parks Director's office is about the same size as the Senior Director's office, adjusting all that, making a facelift upstairs, making it more usable for what we project as the uses. That's kind of the idea for this project, so. Here's the kind of the breakout of estimated costs. The main item is the stairwell that would go down to what would be essentially a kiosk, which they're badly lacking right now. Wayfinding signage would improve because they're also badly lacking that. And with seniors especially, then it compounds the issue. So improving that, creating a wellness room, which is heavily used, even though we don't have one. But it's one of the programs that is in high demand all the time for seniors. So creating a room that actually has plumbing to it, where, you know, to make it a more sanitary condition, where you can wash feet, rinse things out, wash your hands, that kind of thing, make it more welcoming, more relaxing. It's meant to be a spot where you go to get healed and treated. So improving that. So that's the 2.2 portion. And then like I said, the office remodels. And then these are the items that they've removed from the previous. The main hall. I'm not sure how much of this is actually going to be in the final bid, because they did just address it with a facelift. Basically, they painted in the main hall and did some things, so we'll see how much of this is in there in the final bid. But there are some major issues in that room, especially with like the wood paneling, and the light fixtures are like 300 watt or 400 watt metal halide light fixtures, or at least half of them are, and half of them are LED conversions, but they're these big glass bowls, and they're just caked in bugs and dust and stuff. So it's not a welcoming room, and it's where they have their main events. They used to rent it out to weddings and church and stuff like that, so that needs to be addressed. Estimated total is right here. The budget is 300,000, so we'll see what we're looking at with bids. But and then the plan set is continues on after that. I can't remember if I don't think that there's a bid manual in this packet. I don't believe he sent me that, so you just have to go off the notes and the plans and whatnot, but you can get a general sense of exactly what they are projecting to do with the facility, with these renovations, so.
All right, thanks, Brad. I might have cut out there for a minute. My phone overheated and turned off. So now I have the air conditioner on. Hopefully that resolves the issue. Brad, were all of these drawings in the packet? And these revisions, or did I miss when you mentioned that?
Yeah, the drawings are in the packet. This is the packet that I have open, we're just scrolling through it, the one that was
Okay.
attached to the meeting and. The one that I sent out again today, just as a reminder.
Okay, okay, and it looks like it's the same project, just a little bit reduced scope of the project, right?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah, we're not doing the lounges and the kitchens anymore because. We don't have the kids in the facility anymore for the after-school programs.
Okay.
So it really don't need to touch that stuff at this point.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Are there questions that others have?
At the end of the drawing, it does look like there is the bid package with the advertisement to bid and all the.
Oh, there is, okay,
Yeah.
good. Good, so there is some HVAC items, obviously, right, and then there's gonna be a significant amount of electrical. Once they start touching the rooms, they have to update their electrical meet code. And the spacing with outlets and things like that, it's not even close to meeting code as it is. So some of these things, it adds up very quickly, especially on electrical, plumbing, HVAC. When you're talking about reframing or tearing out floors and aesthetic stuff, that it's not as big of an issue, but there's low voltage that has to happen with this project. So the scope is, even though it's a small renovation, it's still, it adds up quickly, very quickly. So, this building is 1968. Built mostly as though it was a 3-season facility. And they built the west side of the building with these prefab panels, which have windows in them. And the panels are like basically, that thick. They're about 2 inches thick. And so that's the amount of insulation that's in those panels. And so what happens in the wintertime is they ice up on the inside with condensation, which is directly over the top of a lot of the floor registers and stuff like that. So then you get melting and freezing and melting and freezing, and it's just an absolute mess, which is not part of this project. We'll talk about that when I show you the facility maintenance schedule that I've tried to put together, which will be presented to the mayor, and it's probably gonna be overwhelming for most of the alders and the mayor as well, so it's a lot that needs to be done. But a lot has been pushed or neglected. We didn't have somebody necessarily in my position over the years trying to kind of corral everything and funnel it so that it gets organized and somebody's eyes are on it all the time. And facilities in most municipalities, they just don't get prioritized. If they're not heavily used by the public, or they're not a landmark, so to speak, so. Are there any other?
All right, are there any
questions?
questions?
So you said, Brad, you said the main hall, some stuff has been done, but it seems like some lighting upgrades should be prioritized in there for, both for efficiency, safety, light levels for events.
Yeah,
being
and
senior use.
Yep, that's in the bid.
Okay.
That's a line item at least that they have.
And you said some of those items might be taken out because they were already taken on internally. So maybe that,
Correct.
you know, that main vestibule, when you come in, the entry space that had a line item like 15K, it'd be really nice, you know, upgrade the lighting in there too and try to have a similar feel as you enter the building as your first impression and get your bearings. So if there's any way to squeeze some of that, you know, into the bid. I think that
I
would
do
be good.
believe that that main lobby, when you walk into the community center in the upper level,
Hmm.
those lights are the same as in the event room, and the idea was to change everything out to
Okay,
whatever style that they choose.
yeah,
I believe they're doing something along the lines of a hanging light, fully enclosed like a bar or like a circle, but it has no gaps or, you know, it's just a panel or like a glass panel.
Okay.
So all LED, low voltage.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I mean, you said it making an inviting space and making function better.
Yeah,
And then while you're on that plan right there, the lower level, there's a reception desk when you come down the stairs, which has no sight line as you come down the stairs. I see it's, you know, it's lined up with that entry to the north that faces the pool, is that the main entry to the senior center now?
Yes.
I've never gone in that entry.
yep, so this is the main entrance for the senior center right here.
Yep,
It comes in from that parking lot along the side, the pool is
Okay.
out here.
yep,
This is the proposed expansion of that office space, which is like not even a third of that
hmm
right now. Moving the door, there's a register right here on the wall. This is like a janitorial closet that doesn't get used very much, so that's what they're expanding into. So there's a bunch of HVAC that needs to move in here to the drop ceiling. And then this room is currently it used to be like the maintenance room for the facility. This is a closet that goes back in here. So this was just being used as storage, general storage. The idea is to make this into something that's more like a meeting room. They could list it as multi-purpose room, but something that they can use, that they can put people in so that if they have another event over in adjoining rooms or down the hall, it doesn't interrupt them. So if there's something is noisy or these guys need to have a quieter space, then they can do that.
Okay.
And then, yeah, the stairwell will
down
be
there.
reconstructed.
Yep.
And improved with added storage underneath it. And so when you come down, you'd come out and then there's this kiosk welcome desk around the corner.
Hmm.
It does not exist right now, neither does the storage area. And so this is all gonna be added so that they actually have eyes on the front, the main entrance.
Okay,
So that as soon as somebody comes in, it's very confusing downstairs, and so that's why they're gonna do the wayfinding too. But they come in and you can address them and, you know, oh yeah, hey, that's happening over in the main hall over here. That kind of a thing.
yeah, that all makes sense. I guess my question is, at that reception desk, are you anticipating people come from upstairs coming down, and do you need a sight line? Is that kind of like a blind corner there where you can't really see who's coming down the stairs? Is that, you know,
No,
complicated to wayfinding?
I don't think so. I think that this is not a floor to ceiling like partition.
Oh, okay,
So I believe that this is all like, they had renderings, which would have been probably easier, but
Hmm.
it's kind of, it's open across there.
okay,
The
Okay.
original plan set that I saw actually had this out here. But I think that it gets ADA issues with the door.
yeah. That's what I was wondering, if like that desk could bump out, or if you like make it at an angle and then go straight out so that you are sitting out a little bit from that wall, but you know,
Yeah, this gets pretty tight, which is, I think that's the kind of the limiting factor here and
Yep.
here.
Okay.
This is actually not really very big. I mean, it shows it at. It's about 10 feet plus 2, so you know, it's 11 feet total. You got a 6 foot, not even a 5 foot desk in here, it's gonna get pretty tight.
Yep. Okay.
Just for that
Well-
main hall, you mentioned that it's not currently being rented out. Is the plan in the future to be able to rent that out?
Well. Honestly, I wanna say that that's pretty dependent on the referendum. That is going through, we seriously have a major staffing issue when it comes to maintenance. The only way that we would be able to do it is if. The costs of renting it paid for the cleaning and the maintenance of the room. And that's been addressed through the Parks Department, and they've discussed it pretty at length. So if they ever did open it back up. That's what we'd have to do. The other issue is. The security system with the locking mechanisms on all the doors. It doesn't work very well in this facility. We've always had issues with it. And so to monitor it, to make sure that it closes on a timer. And stuff like that for events, so that people aren't in the facility passed out all night or something like at a wedding. Which has happened, that's also an issue. So they need to figure that part out. Right now, it's just to uplift it and so that the city can, we can actually use it. We used to have all of our staff appreciation lunches and stuff like that and whatnot in that space. So the goal would be to use it again, especially for public information meetings. So like the Public Works Department has a major project coming up. We'd be able to use that space. It'd have a projector screen. The lighting would be better. You could funnel people in and make it, convenient and utilize it more. So that's one of the goals. Without spending a fortune in that space, that's kind of the goal of it.
Sure. Yeah, it just seems like it's an area that could be monetized potentially. If the dollars and cents don't make sense to actually rent it out, I don't see any use. But going in the right direction of being able to possibly get some profit from this in the future.
Yeah, and we're not really addressing the HVAC in that space, and that space is one of the spaces that has those panels literally all the way around the west side. So it's hilarious. I look at my HVAC system and it'll be in the wintertime 66 degrees on one half of the room and 72 degrees on the other half of the room because that's how cold it is. So 6-degree difference across 40 feet, So there's other issues that they'll have to address. I think that that's the goal is at some point in the future to use it that way. But there's more investment that has to happen besides just this.
Okay.
Most of the rest of this is your typical. Other like plan sheets, flooring, ceiling tiles. Director's office, like office layout. So, and again, if you have any questions, you see anything in here that looks odd or needs to be added or just let me know and I can send the feedback to the architect and our parks director and our senior center director. So this is what the new stairwell will essentially look like. With the reception next to it on the bottom. So it looks like maybe they're actually moving where you come out of the stairwell. To the backside, which would be interesting. I'll have to look at these closer and get back to you guys, or you might be able to see it. If you look a little closer at these plan sets.
Yeah, I think the next point, there might be some sightline issues there, but I think it could probably be solved with some signage, but when you're coming from the upstairs, I think you're just gonna be looking at a wall and don't know whether to turn right or left.
Right.
Coming from the west side of the building, I think it's pretty apparent because the reception's right in front of you, but.
Right, yep. Yeah, I agree. I think that one of the issues we have in this stairwell area is there's load bearing walls that they didn't want to touch. So to rearrange how it's laid out is kind of tough. I think they are opening it all up though, so there's no longer a door when you come down the stairs. Which would be ideal, because it kind of feels like when you're coming down the stairs, you're in a, I don't know, a tunnel. Anyway, I can keep moving here, I'll just page down. And this is the spec sheets, project manual. Again, the goal would be to bid this probably in a month or two, but we'll have to see what develops with it. Oops.
Yeah, Brad, I think you can keep going on to the lower level of HVAC.
All right, so. Zoom in. Here we go. All right, so this is about 30% design as it lists up here. The goal would be final design in 2025. Construction or bidding and construction in 2026. The HVAC system in the lower level is a split of 2 air handlers, 1 boiler, and a split system ACCU on the exterior of the building. The control system is a mixture of what do you call it? MSTP old Delta controls, which are no longer. I mean, you can't even program them anymore. You have to have a special set of software on like a, HP from 2000 to even interact with the controllers. The goal would be to gut basically everything except most of the ductwork. There are heating coils that were added in 2001 when they did the addition to the building to try and improve control, the comfort levels in individual spaces. The goal with this project would be to remove those, reuse the piping and the ductwork, and put in VAV units. And then put in 2 air handlers and 2 boilers to run a redundant system. With all new controls, all new space sensors. The main use of the lower level is pretty much primarily meeting room spaces and storage. Outside of that, there's a cafe, and then there's like a general lobby area in the center of the building. So the idea is to create an environment that is based on the occupancy of the rooms, the meeting rooms. So let's say there's only 25 people in a meeting room. We're not gonna try and pump it like there's 100 people in there. In terms of like airflow and whatnot, and ventilation. So we'd put CO sensors and humidity sensors in. Or CO2 sensors and humidity sensors in, and run the ramp up and down the amount of air and the comfort levels in the room based on all of those sensors. So we would also have to upsize our airflow capacity in the entire lower level is like something like 60% of what it should be designed for. So we will improve that as well. So right now, we have not run this through a general contractor to get a better idea of pricing, but 30%, generally, we're looking at like a $1.4 million project, which is substantial. The biggest issue here is the contingency. So if you see, we have 30% put in there. That's because we're not really sure how a contractor is gonna come in and construct all this, because it's in a room where you have to walk through a 36-inch wide door. With bits and pieces of equipment and then construct it in the room. There's no way to blow walls up or,
No.
you know, and then to demo what's in the room, you have to. Take it apart bit by bit
Cut it up there.
and take it out, so. The demolition and the constructability of the project are fairly significant issues that. Any contractor who comes in is gonna be like, yeah, we can do it, but you know, they're gonna put it. They're gonna build that cost into their bid, so. So that's what this reflects, And the general plan set is. Below. So there are two options that we're looking at right now, you know, we're in preliminary engineering, so we wanted options just in case. One puts everything in that mechanical room. It is pretty tight, but it will fit. The other option is to run all new ductwork for a second unit. That's essentially like an RTU outside on the exterior. After talking with one of the contractors our main contractor that we use to do preventative maintenance on our HVAC systems. They said that we're probably really not going to like option 2. It's going to be a significant project to try and get the roof or the ceiling dropped in the forum room. It's gonna look awkward. We have to move all of the lighting. All your maintenance then is on the exterior. Also, there's still another unit on the interior, so it's kind of an issue with maintenance and. It's just not the best option. So we're leaning toward option 1 on this, which is cheaper as well. And then we can go down here, I can show you kind of the idea. We are looking at potentially phasing this project. Which is kind of laid out here. I've talked with our engineer about it and he says that it probably. Would be better to do it all in one project, but with our budget constraints, the way they are, we'll have to. At least have it figured out if we need to phase it to how we're going to do it. The idea would be to install all the new air handling units. And set up the control system. And the boiler. And then come back and set up the control system and then come back and do all the water piping, ductwork. Boilers, etc. And then come back and do the VAV boxes later, after that's all done. We'll see how budget friendly the council is gonna be for this project, but we got some time to think about this, obviously, this is just preliminary design at this point, so. And then the design drawings kind of reflect how it might be phased. So the different colors are different phases. And you can see how much of the lower level we end up having to touch. So it's a decent amount. And so, yeah, phase 1 is yellow, phase 2 is purple, phase 3 is green. If we do have to phase it, I would really like to just do 2 phases where we get the boilers installed, the air handlers installed, the new ACCU installed, the controls are in and programmed. And then all we have to come back and do is a much smaller project later on to address like piping and VAVs and some tin work, some duct work here and there in the rest of the facility. That's how I prefer to do it if we have to phase it. But as you can see, there's a lot of demolition on this. We also have some ventilation issues that we've come across that are likely to get added into this scope of work. When they put the large open stairwell in that goes from the upper to the lower level. Everything got opened up a little bit more. And what ends up happening is when we economize in the facility, which is when we use fresh air to cool and condition spaces, which is obviously the most efficient way to do it. which doesn't happen too often in Wisconsin, but when it does, we overpressurize the facility because we don't have mechanical exhaust in the facility. So what's supposed to end up happening is you have too much water or air coming in, it pushes into the air return and goes out of the unit. But the doors on the unit are so heavy that it just keeps recycling. And so we're just putting more and more air pressure into the building. And then all of our doors kick open and stay open. And they're hard to open from the inside or otherwise, so it's worse in the lower level because what we're doing is we're not pumping enough air into the lower level. Like I said, we're at like 60% of our air capacity. And the upper level is feeding it air through the stairwell. And it's pushing those foyer doors open right here, where most people come in from the parking lot. Or I should say it's over here. So yeah, it's a bear, this project. But it absolutely needs to be done. This system is falling apart. I don't have it listed in here. I do plan to create a summary of maintenance over the last couple of years. This year alone, the library's maintenance budget is already 115% of its total. The community center's maintenance budget is at 100%. City Hall is at 50%, only because we beefed our budget up in the years or over the years. And we've used all of the capital maintenance budget already, which is for emergency capital investments for facility maintenance. So like new pumps, new air conditioning units, new lighting, stuff that's an asset of the building that can be claimed as a long-term asset. We use the capital account for. It's just one of those things that, you know, you push even small maintenance projects, stuff that's 30, 40, 50, 75 grand, and you push it and you don't do it and things fall apart. And when they fall apart, Murphy's Law, they tend to fall apart all at the same time or at the worst time imaginable. So it's just, that's kind of what's happening right now in all of our facilities. Because really not much is new in our facilities. So in that, you can see option 2 just shows that this is the exterior air handler and how much ductwork goes into that option. It's, if you've ever been in the forum room, it's like a stage. So all of these, this area here all the way around is stairs, like a riser for viewing the stage, which is right here. So it's for like an audience, and to drop the ceiling in all of this, like third of the room significantly, we're talking like 4 to 5 feet, is going to make the entire room look goofy, because right now the ceiling is all the same height and it's for acoustic purposes. So this would definitely have a fairly significant impact on that space. Anyway, that is.
Yeah, Brad, I can pretty much tell you that won't fly.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I figured as much, and I really don't like option 2. Option 1 is so much less intrusive. It just makes the maintenance room tighter, but we talked to our contractor that does the maintenance, and they're like, yeah, no, we can make it work. And if they say they can make it work, then I trust them because they know what they're talking about, so. Anyway, that's this project. That is the end of our packet, but there are items left over for staff updates.
Yeah, Brad, why don't you just run us through the staff updates, and then we can take all of the staff updates and probably the next meeting all together.
So I can send the maintenance schedule out after this. I was just gonna open it up really quickly so that we can kind of just peruse it. Needs. Here we go. So I've been trying to reach out to our department heads and aggregate the various and numerous issues that we exist in our facilities. Whether those are just general maintenance items or whether they require a project, and then to prioritize them and rank them. I've put them in this schedule. This is it's preliminary at this point, but I plan to continue to address this and fill it in with more information. To reach out to contractors and get pricing, that type of thing. So I've been putting this together just this year. We've had old versions of this that needed to get updated, and so I thought one document, all the facilities, it makes way more sense to have it all in one spot, so. I'll send this out afterwards. General consensus or general summary is that there are some significant project needs in our facilities. The ones that I've labeled or had other staff label as items, priority 1 is most important, are immediate needs, and some of these projects are like, they're major projects. They're not small projects. Some of them are in the community center, for instance, senior center are hopefully going to be addressed with that project. The library has the HVAC projects that are priority 1. Hopefully those get addressed within the next couple of years. But then we move into City Hall, which we have no plan to address outside of, a new civic campus building. And just so the committee knows, the general consensus with the council and the mayor and staff is that if the operating referendum at any level does not pass, the civic campus building will not go forward. And if that's the case, the council and our committee and the rest of the other committees that manage different varying facilities and projects will need to know that we will need to do millions and millions of dollars of renovations in this facility to make it work and move forward. And that's just general replacement of existing equipment all the way to major renovations, like the lower level in the fire department needs probably a couple $1 million worth of investment just to make it work for current needs. Our HVAC system needs an overhaul, a fairly significant overhaul in this facility. We're having plumbing that is breaking down, rotting out, and not working anymore in this facility or clogging up. We have major electrical issues in this building. So there's a lot that needs to be done. So just as a general summary, that's, we'll see what happens in the coming months. We'll probably know more by January of next year, I would assume, or April-ish. So we'll have updates for this committee. I'll have updates for this committee. But yeah, if we don't go through with the referendum, we are likely not looking at a new facility here on civic campus. So we'll have a lot of meetings in the coming years. I guarantee that. So get your popcorn. The civic campus building, is what I mentioned. The idea right now, general summary is it's a multi-use building, police, fire, city hall, all in one. We move our primary meeting spaces and council chambers into that building. Parking totals we enhance very slightly, but essentially keep it status quo for what we have now, but all the parking would be in one location. As opposed to right now, we have senior center, and then we have like a little bit in the front of the community center. And then we have some volunteer firefighter parking spots in front of the fire department, and then we have this lot up here. So, and we don't have any, we have like 6 stalls for interior parking for police squads. So we always have at least 3 or 4 parked up here, which is not good, obviously, for appreciation of vehicles. So, and security. So that would all be interior. We don't have a sally port in this facility, which is very important for police. So they take anyone who's been arrested or otherwise out of the vehicles outside, walk them through the entire police department to an interview room. There's no dedicated toilet. There's no prisoner breakdown area where you can, like, you know, check them for any kind of weapons or otherwise. There's not very good security. You bring them in and the first thing they see is a stairwell that goes all the way down to the police locker rooms, which are unlocked. The police squad bay, which is unlocked. The fire department, which is unlocked. Like, it's an absolute disaster waiting to happen. So all of these things need to be fixed. So the civic campus building includes all of that, and then added space for staffing needs, a lot more storage and whatnot. So at some point when we're farther along in our concept design and we get our construction manager on board and we have better pricing, I believe the idea is that the facilities committee would then at that point start to review some of these things. Right now, there is an ad hoc public safety building committee that's reviewing all of the conceptuals, kind of just getting the bases, you know, loaded so that once we're ready, we can move forward with that project. And Alder Holmquist is on that committee. So, and I'm the staff person for the committee. So we'll be able to bring updates to this committee as needed when we're ready to. So. And then the 5-year capital improvement plan for facility improvements, I will send that out after the meeting. But that is,
Big.
it's yeah, it's everything we brought forward now, plus the future costs of doing like the HVAC projects and the community, other community center improvements and stuff like that, which right here. Oh, I must have it open on my computer. Go figure. All right, so yeah, so we got 3.3 million in 2025, 1.775 in 26. This includes the public safety building, so 40-ish million in 27. Otherwise, it wouldn't be quite as much right now. 28 is 415,000. And then 2030 is 2.6. So there's a variety of projects in here. The solar project is in here, future solar projects. And HVAC improvements, city, community center stuff, rooftop at the community center is arguably in worse shape than the library is. So, but there's been a hold on investing too much money in the community center without having a clear path forward with the civic campus building and how that might impact what happens at the community center in the near future. Because arguably the community center needs to either be demoed or it needs a really, really big renovation project and additions. So. And we need to figure out what our long-term plans are for renting and leasing at Maywood School for recreational programming. If somehow that facility ever ends up in the city's hands, which I doubt it would, but it might, then that changes everything for the community center. So that is where we're at. I just want to make sure that the committee was updated. And I will send all these materials out in an email tomorrow morning for everybody's reference. And feel free to ask me any questions or point anything out to me that you see.
Perfect, thank you, Brad. And I suspect that we may not need the August 21st meeting unless there's bids coming in.
Yep, I don't anticipate a meeting in August. I wanted to put it on there because I wasn't sure if the architect was gonna get me the community center and senior center plans in time. And he did.
Oh, okay.
He got it to me kind of last minute, but so we have those now, so if anybody has any suggestions moving forward. I would assume kind of the drop dead date for suggestions and feedback would be probably the end of this month. I want to say they're trying to bid this out, that project out in August, so.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think you heard that the biggest concern had to do with the sight line and the stairwell. So as long as you work that out with, I think it's Matt Arro's group, Arro Everly probably. Yeah, so my guess is if you can just pass along the concern that was raised tonight regarding that section to make sure that everybody's comfortable with what that looks like, I think we're good to go.
Yeah, I still need to review it for things like contractor requirements for dust control, noise pollution, working hours, all of those things that, because they're going to close down for certain bits and periods of time, but that still needs to stay open because it's a functional facility, so it always gets tricky with that.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. And are there any updates by any community members regarding diversity, equity, inclusion, or sustainability aspects as it relates to facilities? And I'll give people an opportunity to speak if they do have something to share.
I have a question for the group, seeing as you guys have experience with this. I've been reading more and more, and things seem to change on an almost monthly basis with ADA laws and requirements. And there's various interpretations of what is and is not grandfathered into a facility versus what is required of the facility in terms of ADA requirements and meeting those standards. Does anybody know whether the city needs to be actively attempting to achieve ADA compliance with it in its facilities? And they have to be able to prove that they're trying to do so? Or do they have to have a plan to do so? Because in terms of lawsuits, what I've seen is if the entity is not compliant and has not attempted to become compliant and it gets sued, they almost always lose according to the law, the way the law is interpreted. So if anybody has any feedback on that, I'd love to hear it because I just want to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing as the municipality in our facilities.
Well, from my experience.
Yeah, Brad,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was only going to add in that we had a consultant come through and do our facilities regarding ADA's evaluation with the particular plan. I think at that time there was information regarding what the obligation of the city was as it related to facilities, because then we had a second study done for our park facilities, our parks and recreational facilities and programming, and that we also had then at that time another recommendation about how to proceed to ensure that we're complying with law.
Okay.
But I just wanted to add that in for kind of context, but then Nick, it sounded like you might have some additional information to share with Brad.
I think it was
Oh,
Jeremy,
I was
Jeremy.
just adding,
Oh, okay.
my experience on this. I think that an AHJ, they just require a yearly update. And we look at it 6 months prior to whatever that update's gonna be.
and then you submit that to like DSPS or something like that, or?
I personally haven't. Let me go, I have to go back to some of my emails and I can follow up with you, Brad.
Okay, that'd be great.
Sorry to interject.
Well, that's perfect. Thank you.
No, that's what we need. Thank you. Nick, did you have a additional piece that you wanted to add?
I mean, I guess when we work on building projects that we're involved with, it's, you know, if it's a renovation, obviously anything that is being added on or renovated needs to be brought up in compliance, but otherwise, I'm not sure as like a campus wide or facility wide, municipality wide kind of objective. I can't say I have experience in that, but I could ask around if that's helpful.
Yeah, if you have any other
Thank you.
information you find, that'd be great.
Yeah, we're working on some projects
Brad,
so I can talk to their sustainability or ADA specialist, sustainability.
Brad, and I'm not sure if we can go back to the company that did that study for us for our facilities and the recommendation regarding compliance or the obligations regarding compliance. I wonder if there's a way to even ask them if there's been any changes in expectations. They might be able to just kind of share that information with us because they did that study. I think it would probably just be helpful for you to kind of be on top of that for sure.
I'll reach out to Jake because we did not do a study as far as I know for City Hall or the library. I've never seen anything anyway.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I may have been mistaken. I may have thought that it was both facilities as well as the parks facilities and other aspects. But Jake might be able to comment on that for sure.
Yeah, Jake, I know Jake definitely did it for the parks facilities, so I think that maybe our next step would be to scope a project to look at ADA compliance within our civic campus facilities, the main facilities. And go from there.
Yeah. And what I've been told when I was way back on public safety a long time ago, boy, I sure don't ask for a study unless you really want to know the answers.
Oh, yeah, I understand that. We've been tasked with, you know, each department has been tasked with doing something to improve the DEI efforts of the city. And what mine was ADA compliance and inclusivity, accessibility within the facilities. And I'm not really, I think starting there would be perfect. And I know you don't want to ask for more work, yeah, but at the same time, if we want to keep the ball rolling and make sure we're doing the improvements we need to, that would be where I would start.
Yeah. For sure.
All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. I think we just need a motion for adjournment.
Glenn moves.
All right. I think I heard someone second. You could take your pick, either Jeremy or Nick.
That was me, Jay.
That was Jeremy. All
Yep.
right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed? All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks for bearing with me sitting in the car trying to facilitate this. Hopefully it wasn't too choppy on your end.
No,
No, Brian, it was
good.
actually pretty smooth. Thank you very much.
Sweet. All right. Thanks everybody for your time and your volunteer work with us. It's much needed and we appreciate it for sure.
All right, everyone be safe.
Yep, thank you. Appreciate
All right.
it.
Thanks, everybody. Good
Have a
night.
great night.